Number 1, operational monitoring and company's assets and liabilities to maintain sufficient cash flow, effective current management, and efficient management of individual current assets such as cash, receivable, and inventory. So if you would look, now, it is referring now to the management of the current assets. So when we discuss working capital, we have to manage the cash, the receivable, and inventory, which are classified to be current assets. So, working capital cycle. The working capital cycle measures the time between paying of goods supplied to the business and the final receipts of cash to the business for sale. So it is desirable to keep the cycle short as possible as it increases the effectiveness of the working capital cycle. So, how do we manage current assets? Okay. Now, management of the current assets is sometimes called the cash conversion cycle or the operating cash conversion cycle. Now, it is the length of time it takes for the initial cash outflows for the goods and services to be realized as cash inflows from sale. So, cash sales plus collection of accounts receivable. Now, there is a formula in the computation of cash conversion cycle. This is inventory conversion period plus receivable collection period minus payable deferral period is equals to the cash conversion cycle. Okay. So here, this is now the cash conversion cycle, it says. Now, there are two bases of selling merchandise, and what we call the cash basis. So if it is a cash basis, there's so much no problem regarding the conversion cycle. Why? Because the cash conversion cycle is not so complicated. Okay, look at this one. So if you have a cash, you purchase it with merchandise, and then you sell it for cash. So that is the cash conversion cycle. Now, there would be some complication when the inventory is purchased on account, sold it on account, and you have to collect the receivable in order for you to convert the cash. So the situation would be like this. So there is a payable that you purchase for the inventory. When you sell it, because you acquire it on credit, then you can sell it also on credit. So it's receivable, and then the receivable now will be collected into cash. That completes now the cash conversion cycle. Okay, so if you look at the chart, medyo madali lang intindihin, hindi ba? So madali lang. Okay, however, meron tayong tinatawag na number of days dito sa mga periods na to. In other words, yung pagbili mo ng ng inventory through utang, kumisan meron kang tinatawag dyan na ordering period, kung tawagin natin lead time. Tapos pagdating na naman dito from inventory, ibebenta mo, para maging receivable siya, meron ka namang tinatawag na holding period bago mo siya mabenta. Tapos pag naging receivable na naman siya, meron na naman siyang tinatawag na period, kung tawagin naman yon ay collection period. So, there are different periods here. So, merong bawat period na yon may corresponding na number of days. Kaya yung cash conversion cycle, ang sinasabi, it is the length of time. So, ilang araw ang iyong mauubos para yung cash mo ay bumalik ulit sa iyo as cash. Ang tawag doon ay cash conversion cycle. Okay. So, paano natin sa makukuha? Pag ikaw ay naka-receive na ng cash, then babayaran mo na ngayon yung pagkakautang mo. Diba? Kailangan makolekta mo muna yung receivable mo bago ka makapagbayad ng iyong payables. So that completes now the cash conversion cycle. So para makompute natin ngayon yung mga number of days na tinatawag, kailangan alamin natin ngayon yung tinatawag nating inventory conversion period, kailangan malaman din natin yung tinatawag nating collection period, yung receivable conversion period, at yung isa pang period na tinatawag natin is yung days in payable. So, ganito ngayon ang kailangan. Okay. So, ang inventory conversion period ay ganito. Pag merchandising business, you have to compute yung tinatawag nating inventory turnover. Paano mag-compute? So, there is the formula, the cost of goods sold divided by ngayon ng average inventory. So, when we say average inventory, there are two figures o amount. Kukunin mo ang sum total and then you divide it by 2. Pag i-divide mo na sa 2, yung sum ng dalawang figures, ang tawag mo na doon average. Yung days in inventory naman, pag na-compute mo na yung number 1, which is inventory turnover, ang computation niya, number of days in a year, over yung inventory turnover that you computed in number 1. Yung number of days, usually, yung tinatawag nating business days. Usually, ito yung 360 days. Sometimes, gumagamit din yung ibang business ng 330 days. So, usually, pag silent ang problem, then you use the 360 days. So, that is inventory conversion period for merchandising business. Pero pagdating ngayon ng manufacturing, madadagdagan yung computation mo. Kasi meron kang raw materials turnover. Okay, the formula is raw material use over average materials inventory. Meron kang finished goods inventory turnover. That is now the cost of goods sold over average inventory. And then days in inventory and materials or finished goods, that is number of days, yung 360 over inventory turnover. Kung gusto mong malaman ang days in inventory for materials, kunin mo yun dun sa number 1, yung turnover mo dun ng raw materials. Pag gusto mong makuha ang turnover ng finished goods, number of days divided by naman ngayon yung inventory turnover ng finished goods. Okay. Kaya dito sa chart, ganito mangyayari. Ang inventory turnover daw is, paano mangyayari? This one. Ito mangyayari dyan. So, merong illustration yan. So, meron kang inventory, papunta doon sa receivable. Diba? So, papunta. Ang number of days in inventory. Yun yung iyong titingnan. Okay, this one. Next one is the receivable turnover. Gano'ng katagal bago mo makolekta yung receivable mo. Okay, ang formula is net credit sales. Pansinin mo, net credit sales. If the total sales is composed of cash sales and net credit sales, computein mo kung magkano lang yung net credit sales. And then, you divide it by the average receivable. Average na naman, receivable. Paano kino-compute? Pag halimbawa, ang financial statements for 2019-2020, kunin mo yung balance ng accounts receivable ng 2019, you add the balance ng 2020, divided by 2. Okay? The next one ay days in receivable. Pag na-compute mo na yung number 1, i-divide mo yung 360 days over receivable turnover. Ang makukuha mo, this one now is number of days. Ito naman, ang makukompute mo dito is number of times. Ang receivable turnover, ang parang measuring niya is number of times na umikot. Yun ang ibig sabihin. So, this one now. So, there is now the graph. So, meron ka ng inventory, number of days, then you have now the days in receivable. So, meron ka ng amount, ay number of days na na-compute. Number of days in inventory, number of days in the receivable. Pag inad mo yung dalawang yan, ang tawag dyan ay operating cycle. No, ha? So, number of days in receivable and then number of days in inventory before you sold it, ang mangyayari yan, ang tawag ay operating cycle. Next one. So, 10 plus 30 equals 40. So, it takes 40 days before cash is converted to more cash. So, parang ganun ang lumabas. Di ba? Bakit ganun 40 days? Kasi 10 araw na matetenga sa inventory, saka mo lang siya may bebenta. Pag naibenta mo na, makokolekta mo naman siya within 30 days. Kaya ang total ng conversion period ng cash to more cash ay naging 40 days. Okay. Payable deferral period. Okay. Accounts payable turnover. So, net credit purchases. So, hindi lahat ng purchases ay dapat mong isama sa computation. Dapat yung utang lamang. Net credit purchases. Okay, then divided by average accounts payable. Ano yung average, di ba? Kunin mo yung dalawang balance ng accounts payable, that is yung previous year tsaka this year, divided by 2. And then, paano ang days in accounts payable? Ganun ulit ang computation. Number of days in a year, 360, over yung nakuha mo doon sa number 1. Okay. So, this one now. So, ang days in payable measures the average length of time between purchase of goods and payment for them. So, ang tawag mo doon ay days in payable. Okay. Overall analysis. This one. Anong tawag mo dito? Pag na-compute mo ang number of days dito, anong tawag mo dyan? That is the cash inflows. Yan yung pasok ng pera. Pag nagbabayad ka naman, anong tawag mo daw? That is now, ang tawag mo doon ay cash outflows. Now, ha? So, yung cash inflows mo, ang other term niya is operating cycle. Yung cash outflows naman niya, ang tawag doon would be payment period. Pag ibinawas mo ang payment period against sa operating cycle, kasi kinonvert mo na siya in number of days, ang tawag mo na doon is the cash conversion cycle. So, parang ang computation, in other words, ng cash conversion cycle is operating cycle minus payment period. O ba, anong composition again ng operating cycle? Yung days in inventory at saka yung days in receivable. Yun ang operating cycle. Ano naman yung payment period? That is the length of time before you pay your payables. Pag halimbawa, sinabi nung ikaw umutang ng merchandise, payable in 60 days, edi yun ang payment period. No, ha? So, yun yung pag-compute ng cash conversion cycle. Okay. So, sample natin. Okay. Assuming it takes 15 days before the inventory is sold. Ang tawag mo doon is days in inventory. Then another one, it takes 11 days before receivable is collected. Anong tawag mo doon sa 11 days? Collection period. Kaya ang mangyayari, 11 plus 15 equals the operating cycle. So, ang total niyan is, ang tawag niya is, okay, it takes 12 days bago ka magbayad. So, yan ang term, no? Pagkautang mo. So, ilalagay na natin siya. 26 ang operating cycle, 12 days ang payment period, ang cash conversion cycle mo is 14 days. So, napapansin nyo, meron niyang positive, merong negative kuminsan. So, in this case, this is positive. Pag positive na yan, that is a warning, nung ibig sabihin, dapat mabilis ang collection mo ng receivable. Kasi, sinisingil ka na ng nagpautang sa'yo sa loob ng 12 araw, samantalang ikaw, para makakonvert ka ng cash 26. Kaya pag wala kang pambayad, dito, anong gagawin mo? Uutang ka. So, malalaman mo din dyan sa cash conversion cycle kung ano ang strategy mong gagawin. Okay, ang tawag doon is management of working capital. Okay, another one. Okay, 20 days, days in inventory. 30 days, ang days in receivable. So, that is 50 days. 15 days ngayon ang required payment ng payable. So, 50 days minus 15 equals 35 days ang conversion cycle mo. Another situation, 7 days plus 10. So that is now, okay, and then 30 days ka uutang. Okay, so 17 days, mako-convert na ang cash mo, pero hindi ka pa magbabayad. Ang result niyan ay negative, di ba? So in that case, meron kang sobrang cash. Hindi ka dapat umutang kasi sobra-sobra ang cash mo. Okay? So dito sa sample problem natin, okay, net credit sales, average matila, so hindi ka na pinagko-compute, may average ka na, di ba? So medyo madali ang gagawin mo diyan kasi may average ka na. Di ka na mag-add divided by 2, given na kagad. So we try to compute now, right? Okay. So ang solution natin would be like this. Dahil siya ay merchandising, meron kang raw materials inventory turnover. So galing dun sa figures natin, that is 96,000 divided by 8 equals 12 times, yun ang turnover mo. And then, yung 360 divided by 12, eto na ngayon ang days in raw materials, 30 days. Sunod na computation. Finished goods inventory turnover, 576,000 times 75. Bakit times 75? Kasi sabi kanina, yung gross profit mo ay 25. So, ang cost of goods sold mo is only equivalent to 75% of the sales. Kaya, divided by 12 equals 36. Then, 360 divided by 36 equals 10 days. So, accounts receivable turnover, that is the sales, credit sales, divided by average na 80,000 equals 7.2 times. And then 360 divided by 7.2 equals 50. Ilan ngayon ang operating cycle mo? 30 plus 10 plus 50. So, pumapatak ng 90 days. Ano naman yung payment period mo? It's only 15 days. Kaya ang cash conversion cycle mo ay 75 days. Ano ang interpretation? Meron ka bang kakapusan sa working capital? The answer is yes. Bakit may kakapusan? Because ang resultant ng cash conversion cycle mo is positive 75 days. So, yun ang ibig sabihin. Another example natin. Ito na naman. Okay, almost the same. Pinalitan lang natin yung mga figures. Yung sale is the same. Inventory. Ito lang mga balance na bago. So, this is now the formula. Okay? So, the same computation din. No? Na bago lang yung figures. Okay? Pero ang resultant ay 13 days. Anong ibig sabihin? Ibig sabihin, ang operating cycle mo ay 30 plus 10, that is 40, plus 7, that is 47. Turnover mo ng accounts payable, that is number of days, 60. Di ba? So, 60 days bago ka magbayad, pero within 47 days, meron ka ng pera. So, meron kang negative cash conversion cycle. Dapat ka bang manghiram? Hindi. Bakit? Dahil mas marami kang pera para pambayad ng iyong pagkakautang. Okay? So, yun yung tingnan lang yan at ulit-ulitin, try to compute. O ha? Kaya itong assignment na to, ang inyong gagawin. Okay? Ang ano lang dito is to use ngayon yung mga formulas natin. Dadaan ka sa inventory turnover, days in inventory, receivable turnover, days in inventory, accounts payable turnover, then days in payable. Pag na-compute mo na yan, eventually, makukompute mo na ang cash conversion cycle. So, kasi ang tanong, what is the average days in company's cash conversion cycle? Kaya ito una mong gagawin para makompute mo yan. Yan yung isasubmit ninyo sa akin. Okay? So, that ends now yung part 2 ng cash management and liquidity part 2. Salamat!